Would you get pregnant for madman? Probably not. But there is a woman who did it differently. But why? Where the sun kisses the earth and lions roar, stands an idyllic village. In it resides a beautiful, young African girl, only 14 dry seasons old. This girl's name was Aisha. Her beauty and gentleness shone throughout the village, but her heart burned only for one man, for Kwame. This man was brave, handsome, and a young warrior, respected by all villagers. It didn't take long before they got married. Everyone was moved and overjoyed for them. They loved them and were grateful for such a blessing. What could go wrong? No one asked this question until a sinister shadow appeared on the horizon, freezing hearts at the mere sight. He was a savage tribal warrior, known for his cruelty and heartlessness. He was Mabuti, and behind him rose the dust of his wild, mighty army. Thus, the joy and happiness in the village turned into fear and terror. Smiles turned into worried faces, and peace turned into chaos. As the sun began to slowly rise above the jungle, Mabuti's army arrived in the village. There were dark clouds in the sky, bringing death and destruction. Their steps echoed through the dusty streets. Their cries were like voices from hell. Every step they took left behind devastation and suffering. Mabuti was a man without a heart. In him burned the fire of hatred and desire for power. When he entered the village, he scattered, burned, and destroyed everything in his path. Houses burned like torches. People fled in fear for their lives. His soldiers set fire to crops and slaughtered livestock, leaving behind only ashes and devastation. But amidst this chaos, Mabuti spotted Aisha. Her beauty was like sun rays on a grey day, a beauty unlike any he had seen before. Her eyes shone like precious pearls in the darkness. Her young taut breasts, her full lips, and her tender chocolate skin were so beautiful that Mabuti himself, for a moment, wondered if she was a goddess. In every way, he desired to possess her beauty and innocence. He felt consumed by desire, like a mighty ocean wave, impossible to resist. Without a word, he approached her, roughly grabbed her hand, and pulled her towards him. Aisha screamed in fear and despair, but Mabuti, blinded by desire, paid no heed. With swift movements, he tore off her clothes and forced her to surrender to his desires. Her untouched body was like a delicate butterfly, its wings crushed. Meanwhile, Kwame, whose heart burned for love more than the entire village, fervently searched for his beloved. He searched every corner, every crevice, and finally found her in a stable behind a tree, on the edge of the village. As he entered and witnessed the horrifying scene of the mutilation of what he had nurtured for years, rage and terrible hatred ignited within him, propelling him straight towards Mabuti. But he achieved nothing. Mabuti was simply too strong and pushed him aside with one hand, sending him crashing into the mud against the wall. That's when Mabuti's soldiers noticed him and mercilessly beat him, leaving him lying in the mud mixed with his own blood. Thus, humiliated, helpless, and weakened, he lost consciousness. In the meantime, Mabuti, with his mighty hand as large as a lion's paw, grabbed Aisha, pulled her close, and completely consumed her with desire. Kwame woke up from unconsciousness, his body covered in blood and bruises. He felt humiliation that reached deep into his soul, and a promise of revenge burning in his eyes. With stubborn determination, he crafted a knife from an elephant bone, carefully hiding it beneath his clothes. With a heart full of anger, he sought Mabuti, eager for a reckoning that would bring justice for all who suffered from his evil. When he finally found him, he was ready to plunge the knife into his back and bury him under the weight of his suffering. However, his shadow betrayed his presence, and when Mabuti turned around, it was too late. With the knife made for his own death, Mabuti stabbed him in the heart, and Kwame collapsed to the ground, surrounded by a dark silence echoing in his ears. Aisha, upon hearing the horrifying news, became cold and withdrawn. Nothing could bring a smile to her face, not even Mabuti's most precious gifts. Her heart remained faithful to Kwameme. Her love became a prison from which there was no escape. Mabuti noticed how her beauty slipped through her fingers, and he tried to make her happy by any means possible. But the more he tried to please her, the less happy she became. Her belly swelled, and her joy diminished. With it, her beauty faded, once like a savanna flower, blooming only in the wet season. As Aisha was no longer beautiful and behaved like a soulless shadow, Mabuti threw her into a dark dungeon where she remained, imprisoned in her suffering and despair. There, she awaited her end, unaware that her story would soon come to an unexpected conclusion. Aisha sat in the dark dungeon, her body embraced by fear of the future. She felt the pulsating presence of her unborn child, the only light in the dark night of her soul. Despite her hatred for Mabuti, she loved the innocent child. He was her only reason to endure life. Every day, she pondered her morality and what she should do. Should she escape and fight for the safety of her child, risking death? Or should she let her life and the life of her child be in the hands of the wicked Mabuti? What would you do in such a situation? Let me know in the comments. As the god brought her food, he noticed her righteousness and innocence. Astonished by her strength and determination, he warmed up to her. He decided to help her escape back to her native village at the cost of his own life. After a long and dangerous escape, Aisha and the god finally arrived back in her native village. There, she gave birth to a child whom she named Mermaid, signifying the fruit of desire. In the village, they found the support, warmth, and protection they so desperately needed. The child grew and grew, but the question of who his father was haunted him. He asked his mother, but she refused to reveal the truth. Instead, she only cried, further fueling his desire to uncover the truth. He decided to uncover the secret of his origin himself. If you want to find that out, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe button. Until next time.